Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping story, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. If you're hooked on real-life drama like this, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon. We've got another epic tale lined up for you tomorrow. Buckle up, because this one's a wild ride about Keanu Reeves, a luxury condo, and a night no one saw coming. It was a breathtaking evening in Los Angeles, the kind that makes you pause and soak it in. The sky blazed with hues of orange, pink, and soft purple, as if the city itself was putting on a show to bid farewell to the day. Palm trees swayed gently in the warm breeze, their silhouettes casting long shadows across the upscale streets of Sunset Boulevard. The faint, throaty rumble of a classic motorcycle cut through the evening calm as Keanu Reeves rolled up on his Norton Commando 961. The bike was a beauty, sleek, timeless, and unpretentious, much like the man riding it. Dressed in a simple black leather jacket, worn jeans, and scuffed boots, Keanu exuded his signature laid-back charm, a stark contrast to the glitz and glamour of the city around him. He pulled up to the gates of his new home, an exclusive condominium that screamed luxury. The towering gates, framed by ivy-covered walls, gleamed under the soft glow of wrought iron lanterns. The complex was a fortress of serenity, designed to keep the chaos of Los Angeles at bay. A perfect sanctuary for someone like Keanu, who valued privacy and peace above all. As he eased his bike to a stop near the security booth, he removed his helmet, revealing that iconic face known to millions worldwide. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and a faint, friendly smile played on his lips as he nodded toward the security guard. The guard, a middle-aged man with a stiff posture and a meticulously pressed uniform, stood in the booth, his eyes narrowing as he took in Keanu's appearance. His badge gleamed under the booth's fluorescent light, and his expression was one of practiced authority tinged with suspicion. "Good evening," the guard said, his voice polite but carrying an unmistakable edge of doubt. "Do you live here? I haven't seen you before." Keanu, ever calm, leaned casually against his bike. "Good evening. Yeah, I just moved in. My name's Keanu Reeves." He spoke with the same quiet warmth that made him a fan favorite, holding his helmet under one arm, as if this were just another friendly chat. But the guard's brow furrowed, his skepticism deepening. He stepped out of the booth, crossing his arms as he gave Keanu a slow once-over, his gaze lingering on the motorcycle and Keanu's understated attire. "Keanu Reeves, huh?" he repeated, his tone laced with disbelief, as if the name alone were a punchline. "Can you prove it? You don't exactly look like someone who lives here." The words landed like a quiet slap, creating an awkward pause. Keanu raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard but maintaining his trademark composure. "I've got the lease papers and purchase documents in my bag if you need to see them," he offered, his voice steady but with a hint of firmness. He gestured toward the small leather satchel strapped to his bike. The guard's eyes flicked to the Norton Commando, a classic machine that, while stunning, lacked the ostentatious flash of the Lamborghinis and Bentleys that typically rolled through these gates. "I'm sorry, sir," the guard said, his tone growing sharper, "but I can't let you in without confirmation in the system. And to be honest, no one mentioned anything about you moving in." Keanu let out a soft sigh, his patience holding but clearly tested. "I understand you're doing your job," he said, keeping his tone even. "I'm happy to wait while you verify with someone." He offered another small smile, hoping to defuse the tension. But the guard wasn't having it. He tilted his head, his expression now tinged with mockery. "You sure you're at the right place? This condo's not exactly for, well, ordinary folks." The word ordinary hung in the air, heavy with implication. Keanu's jaw tightened slightly, but his calm demeanor didn't waver. He looked the guard square in the eye, his voice low but resolute. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The statement was simple, yet it carried a quiet strength that seemed to unsettle the guard. The man shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting between Keanu and the bike, as if searching for a reason to double down on his suspicion. In the distance, a few condo staff members lingered near the entrance, exchanging curious glances, while a resident walking a dog paused to watch the unfolding scene. The air grew heavier, the golden twilight fading into a cooler, star-dotted evening. The guard grabbed the radio clipped to his belt, his movements sharp and deliberate. "Main gate to Central," he barked, his voice clipped with impatience. "Got a guy here claiming he's a new resident. Name's Keanu Reeves. Not in the system. Can you confirm?" He shot Keanu a smug look, as if already convinced the response would vindicate him. The radio crackled faintly, but the reply was inaudible to Keanu. The guard's expression, however, spoke volumes. His lips curled into a triumphant smirk. "Just as I thought," he muttered, lowering the radio. "No record of you. Maybe you should double-check the address before wasting my time." Keanu gripped his helmet a bit tighter, his knuckles whitening briefly, but his face remained calm. "There's no mistake," he said evenly. "Maybe the system hasn't been updated yet. It happens." He kept his tone neutral, refusing to rise to the guard's bait. The guard scoffed, shaking his head with a sarcastic chuckle. "Yeah, it happens. But I've been here for years, and I've never seen someone show up unregistered. Especially not at a place like this. You get what I mean?" His eyes flicked pointedly to Keanu's bike and casual clothes, the subtext clear. Keanu tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "I understand you have protocols. I've got the apartment number, 52, and the documents to prove it. Isn't that enough?" The guard crossed his arms again, his stance defiant. "Look, all I'm saying is things here are different. The people who live in this condo, they don't show up on bikes like that. Maybe you're used to a different kind of place." He shrugged, his words dripping with condescension, as if he were doing Keanu a favor by pointing out the obvious. The air grew colder, the tension palpable. Keanu took a slow, deliberate breath, his eyes narrowing slightly as he processed the guard's words. He reached into his satchel, pulling out a neatly organized folder. "Here are the documents," he said, extending them toward the guard. "Lease agreement, purchase contract, all signed and notarized. This should clear things up." The guard took the papers with obvious reluctance, flipping through them with a dismissive glance, his expression suggesting he didn't trust a single word on the pages. "These might be legit," he said grudgingly, "but I'm not the one who makes the call. And honestly, I can't just take your word for it. Security, you know?" He raised his radio again, his tone now openly confrontational. "I'm calling the administrator, but don't get your hopes up. This could take a while." Keanu nodded, his face impassive. "I'll wait." He leaned against his bike, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp, taking in every detail of the guard's behavior. The man's hostility was no longer just about protocol. It was personal, rooted in assumptions about who Keanu was and what he represented. As the guard made the call, the evening sky deepened to a rich indigo, a few stars twinkling above the condo's manicured grounds. Keanu glanced up, his thoughts drifting to the irony of the situation. He'd spent years navigating fame, always striving to stay grounded, and yet here he was, judged not for who he was but for what he wasn't. The guard ended the call, his expression smug. "Administrator's tied up. You're staying out here until I get confirmation." Keanu met his gaze, his voice calm but edged with steel. "That's fine. I'll wait." The guard's eyes narrowed, clearly irritated by Keanu's unshakable patience. "Wait as long as you want," he snapped. "I'm not opening that gate without proof." He paced back and forth, muttering under his breath, his frustration mounting with every passing minute. The standoff stretched on, the cool night air wrapping around the gate. Keanu stood silently, his motorcycle gleaming under the booth's lights, a quiet symbol of his authenticity in a world obsessed with appearances. The guard's radio crackled again, and he listened intently, his face darkening. "Still no update," he said, almost triumphantly. "You're not getting in, pal. I don't know what you're trying to pull, but this isn't the place for it." Keanu's patience, though immense, was beginning to wear thin. "I'm not trying to pull anything," he said, his voice low but firm. "I'm asking you to do your job and verify the documents. That's it." The guard laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. My job is to keep people like you out. You think you can show up here, spinning some story, and I'll just let you waltz in? This is a high-class place, not some biker hangout." Keanu's eyes flashed with a rare flicker of irritation, but he kept his composure. "People like me?" he repeated, his tone measured but cutting. "What exactly does that mean? My bike? My clothes? Or just the fact that I don't fit your idea of who belongs here?" The guard faltered for a moment, caught off guard by the directness of the question, but he quickly doubled down. "Don't twist this," he snapped, pointing a finger. "I've seen all kinds of people try to sneak in with fake papers. You're not fooling me." The situation was spiraling, and the guard's hostility was drawing more attention. A small crowd of residents had gathered near the entrance, whispering among themselves, their curiosity piqued by the unusual scene. Keanu remained calm, but his words carried weight. "I'm not leaving," he said firmly. "You can take whatever steps you need, but I'll wait for the truth to come out." The guard's face reddened, his frustration boiling over. "You think you're in charge here?" he barked, grabbing his radio again. Main gate to Central. I've got an individual refusing to leave, claiming to be a resident. He's causing a disturbance. Requesting police presence now. He shot Keanu a defiant smirk, as if calling the police was his trump card. Keanu shrugged, unfazed. Maybe they'll help sort this out, he said, his voice calm but with a hint of resolve. Minutes later, the flashing lights of a police car illuminated the gate, the siren cutting off as the vehicle stopped. Two officers stepped out, their expressions serious but professional. The lead officer, a seasoned veteran with a no-nonsense demeanor, surveyed the scene, while his younger partner, more relaxed, took notes. The guard rushed over, eager to take control of the narrative. "Thank goodness you're here," he said, pointing at Keanu. "This guy's causing trouble, claims he's a resident, but he's not in the system. No legit proof, and he's blocking the gate." The lead officer raised a hand, signaling for calm. "Let's get this sorted," he said, turning to Keanu. "Sir, can you tell us what's going on?" Keanu stepped forward, his helmet still tucked under his arm. "My name's Keanu Reeves. I'm the new resident of apartment 52. There seems to be an issue with the system not being updated. I've got documents proving my ownership, and I've been waiting for this to be resolved." He handed over the folder, his movements deliberate and calm. The guard interjected, his voice rising. "Those papers could be fake. I've seen this before, people making up stories, trying to sneak in. You know how it is." The younger officer shot him a sharp look. "Let us do our job," he said firmly. The lead officer began reviewing the documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. The guard, undeterred, kept talking. "Look at him. That bike. You really think someone like him lives here? This place is for people with class, not this." Keanu's face tightened, but he held his tongue. The lead officer finished reviewing the papers and nodded to his partner. "Everything checks out. Signed, notarized, registered. These are legitimate." The guard's jaw dropped, his face flushing with a mix of anger and embarrassment. "You're kidding me," he sputtered. "You're going to believe those papers just because they look real? Look at him." The younger officer stepped in, his tone firm. "That's enough. The documents are valid. He has every right to be here." Keanu, sensing the shift, spoke up, his voice calm but pointed. "What is it about me that makes you so sure I don't belong? My bike? My clothes? Or just your assumptions about who I am?" The guard stammered, caught off guard. "I'm just doing my job, keeping this place secure." "Your job isn't to judge people," Keanu said, his words cutting through the tension. "It's to verify facts. You had the chance to do that, and you chose to make this personal." The officers exchanged glances, their expressions shifting to subtle disapproval of the guard's behavior. Before the situation could escalate further, a sleek black sedan pulled up, and a man in a tailored suit stepped out, the condo's administrator. The administrator's eyes widened as he recognized Keanu. "Mr. Reeves," he exclaimed, his voice a mix of shock and embarrassment. "I am so sorry for this. There was a delay updating the system with your move-in. This is entirely our fault." He turned to the guard, his expression hardening. "This is unacceptable. You treated a resident, an esteemed one, like an intruder. What happened here?" The guard stammered, his earlier bravado crumbling. "I was following protocol. He wasn't in the system." The administrator's voice was icy. "This wasn't protocol. This was prejudice. You judged him based on his appearance, not the facts. We'll deal with this later." Turning to Keanu, he softened. "Mr. Reeves, please let me make this right. I'll escort you to your apartment myself." Keanu shook his head, his voice calm but resolute. "It's not just about me. This shouldn't happen to anyone, famous or not. Judging someone by their appearance or what they drive is wrong. You need to make sure this doesn't happen again." The administrator nodded, clearly mortified. "You're absolutely right. We'll review our procedures immediately to ensure this never happens again." The officers handed Keanu his documents. "Everything's in order, Mr. Reeves," the lead officer said. "Have a good evening." Keanu nodded, then turned to the guard, his gaze steady. "I hope you learned something from this. It's not about rules, it's about how you treat people." The guard looked away, silenced, his earlier arrogance replaced by a defeated slump. As the gate opened, Keanu started his motorcycle and rode in, the engine's low rumble echoing through the quiet courtyard. The administrator turned to the guard, his voice stern. "We're discussing this now. This behavior won't be tolerated." The guard nodded, his head bowed, as the weight of his actions sank in. But the story didn't end there. Determined to address the issue head-on, the administrator called an impromptu meeting in the condo's elegant main hall, summoning staff and a few residents who'd witnessed the incident. Keanu, though exhausted, agreed to attend, sensing an opportunity to turn the night's events into something meaningful. The hall was a grand space, with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city's twinkling skyline. The staff stood in a semicircle, the guard visibly uncomfortable at the edge, while residents sat in plush chairs, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. The administrator stepped forward, his voice resonating through the hall. "Good evening, everyone. We're here because of an unacceptable incident tonight. Mr. Keanu Reeves, our new resident, was treated with disrespect due to an administrative error and, more critically, inappropriate behavior from one of our staff members." All eyes turned to Keanu, who stood quietly beside the administrator, his presence commanding yet humble. The guard stared at the floor, his earlier defiance gone. The administrator continued, "This is a reminder that we must never judge anyone based on appearances or assumptions. This condominium is a community where everyone, regardless of who they are or how they arrive, should feel welcome and respected." He paused, then turned to Keanu. "Mr. Reeves, if you're willing, I'd appreciate it if you could share a few words. Your perspective could help us all learn from this." Keanu stepped forward, his voice calm but carrying a quiet authority. "I've spent my life trying to treat people with kindness, no matter who they are. Tonight I was judged, not for my actions, but for how I looked, what I was wearing, what I was writing. And I know I'm not the only one who's felt that sting. We've all been judged unfairly at some point, whether it's for what we have, what we don't have, or how we choose to live. It doesn't feel good, does it?" He paused, letting his words sink in as the room fell silent. "Why do we do it?" he continued, his tone thoughtful but firm. "Why do we assume we know someone's worth based on a glance? I get it, people make snap judgments. But that doesn't make it right. Kindness doesn't cost anything. Giving someone the benefit of the doubt, treating them with respect first, letting their actions speak. That's what builds a community. Tonight, it was me. Tomorrow, it could be any of you, or someone else walking through that gate. Let's make sure they're treated better than I was." The room was still, the weight of his words settling over everyone. A few staff members nodded, their expressions somber, while residents exchanged glances, some visibly moved. The guard, still standing at the edge, shifted uncomfortably, his face a mix of shame and reflection. Keanu concluded, "I don't hold grudges. Mistakes happen, but let's use this as a chance to do better. Not just here, but everywhere. Thank you for listening." The administrator stepped forward, his voice resolute. "Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Your words are a wake-up call. We'll be implementing mandatory training for all staff to prevent this from happening again, and we'll ensure our systems are updated promptly to avoid errors like tonight's." He glanced at the guard, his expression stern. "And we'll address individual conduct separately." The meeting ended, and the crowd dispersed quietly, the weight of the evening lingering. Keanu lingered for a moment, watching the hall empty, his thoughts heavy but hopeful. As he walked to his apartment, the sleek, modern space waiting to become his new home, he felt a mix of exhaustion and resolve. The night had been a test, not just of his patience, but of the values he'd always lived by. The next morning, the administrator sent a formal apology to Keanu, along with a detailed plan to revise security protocols and implement bias training for all staff. The guard, after a private meeting, was placed on probation and required to attend additional training, his job now hanging by a thread. Word of the incident spread among the residents, sparking conversations about inclusivity and respect. Some even approached Keanu in the following days, thanking him for speaking up and sharing their own stories of being judged unfairly. For Keanu, the incident was a reminder of why he stayed grounded despite his fame. He didn't need the flashiest car or the loudest entrance to know his worth, and he wasn't about to let anyone else define it for him. As he settled into his new home, he found himself reflecting on the bigger picture. In a city built on appearances, maybe this small moment could ripple outward, challenging others to look beyond the surface. Wow, what a story! What do you think about Keanu's response to this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let us know if you've ever faced something like this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories. Our next one's dropping tomorrow, and you won't want to miss it. See you then.